My name is Staffan Hellström. I am 66 years old. I'm from Sweden. Swedish ambassador to Turkey since September 2020. Married to Karin, who will introduce herself very soon. And we have two daughters, Sofia and Amanda, 30 and 28 years old. Karin, who are you?
Yes, Karin Hellström, 62 years already, and married to this lovely gentleman here at my side. We have been married for a long time now, since '86, very happily. We are very happy parents to two daughters, grown-up ladies now, as you said, 28 and 30 years old, yeah. And I'm a secondary teacher by myself, and in chemistry and biology. But for the time being, I'm working as a spouse and event manager in this residence, so to say.
We are celebrating our 35th wedding anniversary in June. And our two daughters, Sofia, born 1991, and Amanda, born 1993. They're both living and working in Sweden. I took parental leave with our two daughters. First, when they were born, there's a system where we can be at home with a newborn child 10 days, also as a father. I did that for both of them. Then, when Sofia was 1 year, I took 2 months of paternal leave together with her, and it was only us two. Secondly, when Amanda was a bit over 1 year old, I took paternal leave with her, us three together. That was just under 1 month, way too short, but that at least we had that time together. I felt that at the start of the paternity leave, I was reasonably well informed how to take care of Sofia, but in reality, of course, I had done less than I should. So I think one important point was of the paternity leave was to really be there with the full responsibility, always changing the diapers, preparing for outdoors activities, experiencing the problems occurring and just trying to solve them, be there with the whole responsibility and no one to turn to. That was very useful, and I learned a lot from that. I felt that the paternity leave made a huge difference in terms of intimacy, bonding. I remember when Sofia was newly born, and I had to leave her and her mother at the hospital in the night. I kind of felt marginalized a bit. Certainly during these first 10 days when we all were together, that helped, and I tried to do as much as possible in terms of contact. But I think it made a huge difference in terms of just personal, direct contact with her, that we spent those months together when it was only her and me. Paternity leave helped me understand the everyday realities of childcare, and it helped me to understand the challenges that you experience. I mean, it's a wonderful time, but of course being a parent also includes everyday life challenges, and if you're not there hour by hour in that everyday life, being together at the open kindergarten, together with the other kids, experiencing the illness, your daughter not wanting to eat as she should. I mean, nothing can replace that experience. I think paternity leave helped Karin and myself becoming more equal, not as equal as we should have been. I'm not here to tell a story that this was the perfect division of labor. I should have done more. I should have taken a longer paternity leave. I should have been there sharing the responsibility also when I was working. But it helped us be more equal. And in terms of my relation to our daughters, I think that it made all the difference in the world. First of all, I think I have benefited as father. I think I became a better father, and hopefully that was beneficial to our daughters. You'll have to check with them. But I think that sort of being there on an equal basis. I mean, I can still remember feeling when leaving Löwenströmska Hospital in Sollentuna that February evening 1991, leaving my family. We had just become 3, but then there were immediately hours when I was just outside. And I think that's something that you really can compensate for with paternity leave. Then you're back in business for sure. And in terms of Karin's and my relation, I think we have become a tighter family, certainly benefiting from a lot of other experiences as well. I mean, living outside outside Sweden in many countries together has also helped. It's not everything about paternity leave for sure, but this is the start of something that then became a very sort of tight, hopefully warm, as I felt it, family relation. Without paternity leave, it would have been different. 2 things. First of all, this experience of having the full responsibility, nowhere to escape to when my daughter suddenly was ill when we were outside. Yes, did I have the right stuff with me, handkerchiefs to wipe and to clean and all that? Well, I hadn't. And experience, learning, lesson learned. Secondly, again, the intimacy, the bonds. Sophia and I, we were sitting together singing. Well, I was singing for her, and I can still remember that. That's 29 years ago. Those moments. Probably she can't remember because she was too young. But it was her and me only, and that the contact. I would have liked to have a similar experience with Amanda. Unfortunately, they were both ill when I had my second paternity leave. But again, that experience to take care of two daughters being sick. I mean, I learned from that, and yeah, we were kind of group of three struggling together, and we still benefit from that, I believe. I think I would have regretted it deeply. I regret now that I didn't take longer paternity leave, for sure. But I think in the first 2 months, I mean, those 2 months, that was enough to feel that we really had a significant amount of time together. If I hadn't done that, I would have regretted it. And I think many men in my age could feel at this stage in life that they spend too much time and energy at work and devoted too little energy for their family. Honestly, how many men do you meet in my age saying that, well, you know, I think what I really regret in life is that I didn't work as much. I didn't spend as much time at work as I should have. Never. What men like me most often regret is what they lost in terms of family relations. I regret that I didn't take more paternity leave, but it was huge win for our family, for me, for our daughters, that I did. I was lucky, first of all, because we had seen in Sweden a positive development. First, in the 70s and early 80s, I think a reluctance from many employers to encourage paternity leave. When I took paternity leave in the 90s, attitudes started changing, and I think it was very helpful when the concept of daddy's months was introduced. There are now 3 months that are reserved for fathers, 3 reserved for mothers, and the rest of the parental leave parents can share as they want. My boss at the time, that was quite a special situation. My boss at the time was the Minister for Gender Equality. I was State Secretary and working for him, and he was, for obvious reasons, extremely encouraging, Bengt Westerberg, and there was just a new government formed, and 3 months into that process, me working for him in the Prime Minister's office, I was asking to take paternity leave, and he said, just do it, it's good. And then a couple of years later, he introduced the proposal of daddy's months, which I think has been extremely beneficial. So I was a bit privileged in that sense, but the support was there for sure. Well, first of all, I would have continued to feel marginalized in the role as a parent and father, probably more unsure. I would have felt that Karin would have had also been left with so much of the practical responsibility, both the benefits of being together with our daughters, but also the challenges. So I would have felt marginalized, but I also would have felt guilty.
Yeah, I think we are gaining a lot to share the parenthood between us. And I'm lucky to be married to you, to have the best of fathers possible for our daughters. But to be honest, if you don't let your spouse, your husband, into the little bubble of mother and child, you will surely lose a lot. And I think it's important to be generous and to be fair and to be less dominant. I have to admit that I'm a control freak. I need to have things done my way, and to let Staffan stay at home with the daughters was very good to our family, for me, for him, for the daughters, to let him do things his way, to learn by practice, making mistakes sometimes, feeling very good and happy when everyone was happy and having a good time together. So I think it's important to trust each other, to be generous, and not a single moment have a feeling of jealousy, because of course they were building up a fantastic base of love and trust, and they had fun, and they had adventures, they were outdoors, they experienced different kind of things, singing, reading, playing around. But I let it go. I'm not a hero, I'm not an angel, but I really felt that that was their time, and it was important not to step into their kind of little bubble, because they were creating something for life. And we are gaining a lot from that period of time now. When I'm looking back, I can really see how they established a fantastic relation, the three of them, 2 daughters and Staffan as a father, because all over the years they have been able to talk about everything. He's a very good listener. He's there when they need him, and they trust him every day. And so I think those months, it was a little bit too less because of practical reasons, but those months meant a lot to the whole family, actually. So as I told you before, I am a teacher, secondary school. I was very lucky to have a very good headmaster. Of course, in Sweden it's not difficult to work part-time, as I did most of our children's childhood. I have pretty close to my work. It was flexible. I enjoyed my work. I really enjoyed to be with my kids, but it worked very well. I could adjust my working hours, and it was really not a thing. Of course, I'm happy to be able to continue working as a teacher. It means a lot to me, but over the years I can also see that the valuable time we spent together, the daughters and myself, We have so many wonderful memories from those years, and it also means a lot for us now, having a really tight and loving relationship nowadays.
My name is Magnus Kollet. I'm a Swedish diplomat posted in Turkey. I have lived here for 2 years now, and I'm the deputy head of mission at our embassy. I have been happily married for 13 years, and I have 4 children aged 11, 9, 7, and 3 years old. I have taken parental leave with all of my 4 children, ranging between 5 to 8 months for each one of them. Of course, during that period, I had the full responsibility for my children, so doing everything from changing nappies to washing clothes, putting them to sleep, preparing food, taking them to the woods or going outside to play, of course, as my wife was working full-time at that. For me, the question of parental leave connects to a number of basic questions when it comes to parenthood and family relations. The first one is, of course, why do we have children? Do we see them as mere accessories in our lives, or do we bring them to life, bring them into our lives as individuals that we want to connect to and have a good relationship with? For me, of course, that was very important, so I very much appreciated the time that I had with my children. The second basic question is, of course, what kind of relationship do I as a father want to have with my children? What kind of role model do I want to be? What kind of role do I want to play in their life? Do I want to be a mere clown that comes in every second weekend to arrange fun activities? Or do I want to be there for them in the everyday life, for them to rely on, for them to discuss their issues and problems with later when they grow up? And I realized during my parental leave that with children, it's about quantity, not always quality. You have to be there every day for all the small things, for the big things to come. You can't just show up every now and then and expect to be an equal parent for them. It takes time to grow that relationship with your children. And of course, another important aspect is the relationship with your spouse, and in my case, my wife. My wife is a lawyer. She was working full-time, as I said, and for me, it was important also to give her an equal opportunity to pursue her career, which is equally important to mine. So we decided long before we had children to share the responsibility for them equally in all aspects, as we share everything else in life. Of course, when you have the full responsibility for a child for a longer period of time, you realize how much work it is, and you grow to appreciate the work also of the other parent. When we had our first child, our daughter Emilia, my wife was at home with her for the first 6 months, and often when I came home from work, I asked her how her day had been and what she'd been doing, and sometimes she just looked at me in despair and say, you don't understand, we haven't been able to do anything, it was just one thing after another. And it was only when I then took my parental leave that I realized the true meaning of that, because indeed some days things didn't at all turn out according to plan, and it was a lot more work than I had expected. So you grow to appreciate that, and you grow to appreciate each other in the adult relationship as well. I think that without this extended time on leave that I had with my children, I wouldn't have the relationship that I have with them today, and the relationship between me and my wife would certainly have been very different as well. I feel that I have been there for my children from day one, and that's how I wanted to be. And I have also been the husband and the father that I want to be in relation to my wife. And I think that's a key also for a happy marriage. I should admit that when we had our first child, I had some concerns what the parental leave would mean for my job, for my career, for my opportunities in the future. And I discussed this with my managers at the time. And I quickly came to the conclusion that I have to put my family, my children, and our relations within the family first, because that time will never come back. I cannot say when they're 10 years old that, oh, I should have been there, because then that time has passed. A career is a long-term project, and so is having children. So for me, I'm very happy that I took that decision and stood by it with all 4 children. It has certainly benefited the relations that we have now. I think the most important takeaway from my parental leave is indeed that without spending time with your children, without being there in their everyday life, in small issues to bigger discussions, it takes time. It takes time to nurture a child, it takes time to grow a healthy relationship with a child. And so there is no way around parental leave. It's about principle for me, but it's also about very real aspects of life and of family relations. So I strongly advise all the dads out there to prioritize your family, prioritize your children. You will benefit from it as a father, and they will certainly be happy to have you there as a full-time dad and a full-time parent. I think I would have strongly regretted not spending this much time with my children. As I said, this is a time that you cannot get back. Your career or other things in life, they will still be there for you when you come back to work after the parental leave or later in life. But that time with your children, it's there and then. You only have those few months and years when a child is forming as a personality, when they connect to you as a parent. If you lose it, you'll regret it. So I'm very, very happy that I took that time. It's an opportunity that I will never have again, but that I will always cherish. I can honestly say that I've had some discussions with various managers about me taking that much time off for parental leave with my children. Not all of my managers were very happy about that decision, but in Sweden this is a regulated right, and I decided that I wanted to use that right and put family and my children first. And in the end, all of my managers were understanding and supportive in this effort. As I said, I think I would have regretted not taking this time with my children.
My name is Danny Annan. I'm from Denmark. and I've worked here in Turkey for the last 7 months as the Danish ambassador to Turkey. I've been married for 17 years. I have 3 children, Carl at 15, Marcus is 12, and Eva is 10 years old. During the birth of my children, I had the opportunity to take parental leave, and I managed to take 14 weeks with each child. It was, I would almost say, natural for me to be there at the early days of my children's life. And I, of course, changed nappies. I was washing my children. I was putting them to sleep. Sometimes I even fell asleep with them, and also helped with other chores at our house. It affected the intimacy with my children to a very, very high degree. As you know, my children are older now, and I do, with longing sometimes, think back on the good days we spent in the early years of their life. I do also believe that it was not only good for me, it was also good for my children that we bonded so strongly in their early years, and definitely also for my wife, that I was there to assist and help with the children, so she was not the only one responsible. I think when you're married, you are a team, and you need to assist each other in the best possible way. That goes both before you have children, but actually also when you do have children. And I do believe that it is good for the relationship. I think it creates less conflicts if you are in it together, you're working together. I think it's good for your wife in my case. It gives a lot more opportunities for the wife also to have a more independent life. And I do also believe that it is very, very good for the children, not only for them to enjoy the company of their father, but also later in life that they are more open to sharing responsibility. I think that, and I know that my wife has appreciated us working as a team when it comes to the upbringing of children. Of course, in the early days there was a lot more work, changing diapers and giving them food. Today they're older, they're more independent. So there's less work, but still the relation we built in this teamwork in the beginning has definitely also contributed to us working more as a team today. And for my children, I feel and I know that they have a very close bond to me, and I have a very close bond to them. And I do doubt that the relationship would have been the same with my children if it had not been because I had engaged so actively in the upbringing of my children. I think I have benefited in being a full person. I think I would have lacked a lot if I had not been there in the early days for my children, but also today we are a team in the family. They can always come to me. They always know that they've been able to come to me. So I think that you work together and you are there for your children is definitely the biggest benefit. The most important benefit of parental leave is that I had chance to dedicate myself 100% to be with my children. I remember my firstborn son. On a daily basis we would go to the park, we would play in the park when he was, not of course when he was just born, but in Denmark with each of my children, the first 2 weeks after they were born, I had a chance to bond with my children 100% because I took 2 weeks immediately after they were born, so I could spend time with them. And that is of course precious time that you have just created this life and you have the chance to be with your child 24/7 in the first time of your child's life. Of course your wife is also in a lot of need for help, for you to be there, because it is, as parents know, very tough. It can be very tough for the woman who has to breastfeed and so forth during night. So for you to be there is of great value. If I had not taken parental leave, I think today I would sit and have a feeling that I would have lost something. In general in my life, I would say I've been very happy, but I'm also sure when I'm old and retired, I will think back on the periods of my life where I had the chance to dedicate myself 100% to my children, that they would stand out as being some of the most precious times of my life. As I said, I have been very fortunate to be able to have 14 weeks parental leave with each of my children. In the Danish system, it's not that you have to take the leave in one time. You can spread it out. And in Denmark, you can actually spread out your parental leave until your child turns 8. So I've managed to dedicate time to my children 100% over the period of their 8 first years. So that is for me very, very precious. One thing I really appreciate about the Danish system is that from your workplace there is full support for parental leave. And I have never ever felt anybody looking at me in an odd way when I said I was going to leave my job for weeks to be with my children. I think actually the atmosphere in Denmark today is that if you as a father do not take parental leave, people will look at you in an awkward way. That is, of course, that has not been the case for decades. It is a more recent phenomenon. But today I would say that the mentality in Denmark has changed, both with the parents, but definitely also with the workplace. Parental leave is fully accepted. I think if I had not decided to take parental leave when my kids were young, I think that I would today sit with an empty feeling that I had not taken this great opportunity to be with my children for many, many weeks when they were small. My kids are turning into teenagers today, and as you know, teenagers have a tendency to, and that's all natural, that they would like to spend more time alone or with their friends. So the chance I've had to spend all these weeks with my children when they were young are very, very precious for me.
Hello, my name is Siegenfeld. I'm from Denmark. I'm a diplomat in the Danish Foreign Service, and I currently work at the Royal Danish Embassy here in Ankara as Deputy Head of Mission. I've now been married a little more than 13 years. I have 3 children, a 12-year-old daughter, an 8-year-old daughter, and a 3-year-old son who was born here in Turkey. Well, it's been a little different for the three children. My first child was born while both me and my wife were still at university, and the Danish educational system is quite generous. You are offered a state subsidy, not big money, but big enough to pay the rent and other costs. And I had an extension of that subsidy for 6 months after having my first child. So I actually had a lot of time to spend together with my wife and the newborn for the first child, a little more than 6 months. And then for the 2 subsequent children, I've had 7 weeks with each of them. Well, I've participated a lot in the daily caretaking of the children, not only during my paternity leave but also in general. So I'm fully used to both changing diapers and putting children to sleep, doing the cleaning and all sorts of other things. So that was a big part of both my paternity leave, but is still quite a big part of my daily routine. Yeah, well, obviously you get to spend a lot more time with your children, and you do become more intimate. So it goes without saying that has been a huge benefit, simply to spend more time with the child in question, but also spending more time with the family in general. With every child we've had, I think both me and my wife have prioritized spending more time together as a family, and with the third child of ours that was born here in Turkey, we used my paternity leave to go on a longer trip across Turkey and in the region, traveling together as a family, and that was time really well spent. To be honest, I don't think the paternity leave as such changed much, because I was part of it and am part of it also outside the paternity leave. But of course, you do get to spend more time on house chores and daily routines, and I think that's important in a marriage and in a relationship in general, because the more equal you are in sharing the different burdens or chores, if you will, you become more equal. So it's been a positive experience, but the paternity leave as such has not changed much, because I was already part of it. Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, I think when it comes to my wife, I think we've become more equal, because we take part in the same things. And as for the children, well, spending more time at home with the children, of course, you bond, you build a stronger connection with your children. So as a family, I think we've come out much stronger, and my wife and I being much more equal. Yeah, well, first of all, for me personally, I have benefited a lot. I get to spend more time with my children while they were still small. I think that's very important in itself. I think for my wife, it has allowed her also to spend more time on her work and her career. So again, the equality part, as I have alluded to before, I think that has been strengthened. And then I hope and I believe that my children and I have also built a stronger bond based on the time we spent together. I think the most important takeaway for me is when you get married and you establish a family, that's the best way to realize that there are other things in life than work. So it's been a very good break away from work, and remembering that there are other things in life. So I think that would be the main takeaway for me, spending more time with the family, quality time. Or if I had not taken parental leave or paternity leave today, I would definitely regret it. I still have a little left actually for my youngest son, so maybe I will take some more weeks at a later stage. I can do that up until he turns 8, which is a very favorable system we have in Denmark. But I would definitely regret it, and I think my looking in hindsight today, I would have wished that I have taken even more than I have done already. Well, the Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs have been very supportive. The public sector in general is quite supportive when it comes to parental leave in Denmark. It's very well regulated. There's a lot of support. A lot of my superiors have taken parental leave themselves, and I see more and more colleagues at my own age or younger doing more and more paternity leave. So I think that's very positive. Yeah, as I think I already mentioned, if I had not taken the paternity leave, I think I would regret it. Your children are only small once, and if you don't do it while they are small, I think most people would regret it once they sit after having retired, looking back at their career and their life. No, so to me, I would definitely have regretted a lot if I didn't do it.
Good afternoon. My name is Raimo Pahkasalo. I'm the first secretary and consul at the Embassy of Finland in Ankara. We came here last August.
My name is Tuovi Pahkasalo. I'm married to him. We have been married already 35 years.
Oh, yes.
And I'm an early childhood educator.
I agree with my wife. We have been really married for 35 years. Got married in 1984. We have 2 children, both are sons. Elder is Tuomas. He was born in 1989. And the younger one is Aleksi, and he was born in 1992. When Tuomas was born in 1989, he was only 16 days old when we returned back to Kuwait, where I was posted. And it was like building a family at that time. And I took my paternal leave a bit later, next year in the autumn time. And I had my paternal leave about 1 month at that time.
But then with Aleksi, you were having a longer.
With Aleksi, he was born in 1992 in the summertime. And what was very important for us was that I had my parental leave in the beginning of next year, about 1 month, because you went to work.
Exactly,
So
that kind of like helped me then go back to the work life.
Yeah, and it was very important for our family that she could work as well at the kindergarten. Actually, I've been doing that all the time. Changing nappies, washing, reading, everything. So it has been natural, not only during the paternal leave, but all the time, we have been a family.
When we moved to Kuwait and Aleksi was only 16 days old, we didn't know what was to be mom and dad. And so actually he was kind of raising us like parents. So we were sharing all the duties together.
I think it was a marvelous effect. And it really had a big influence on our relation, like spending time with him all the time, being together, making, of course, eye contact. But it was start of the mutual respect, I would say.
And also like the child, if you think about it, the mom, becoming a mother and becoming a father, that's a job that you don't have any training. And you don't have, that's the occupation, it's kind of like given. So during that time, we could have also time to talk about what are our family values, how we want to raise the child. And it was more like paternity leave, we had more time to discuss about those things.
That's right, yeah. Actually, the paternal leave has not changed that much, on how what is my reaction or my attitude, the household chores and so on, and childcare, because it has been there all the time. It was a very good start. It was a good beginning to understand what it means to be a father, and at the same time try to understand what is to be the mother, because it's always so challenging. So I think it has a good impact on my attitude.
We had been married a couple of years before Tuomas was born, so kind of like the household chores were shared already equally. And but then when the child comes, of course the home chores as well, they add up. And who is doing the shopping, who is doing the laundry, who is doing the ironing, like he's doing that in our family.
Yes, I'm doing the ironing all the time. When even today, when the boys they ask someone to iron their clothes, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
and actually, I love it.
The paternal leave affecting our relationship definitely positively. As we are their parents, even they are now adults, but still, if it comes the situation that they need help, the most of the time they call their dad, actually. And if it's the maybe more like relationship with their girlfriends, they call to me, but if it's something like a car accident or something like that, they call to dad, even now when they are adults. But paternal leave, if it affected that time when we were young parents, that we had time to talk about the family values and how we raise the children, and we have still like the saying that, hey, it's time for family meeting.
There's I'm not going back to the history, but and you don't like it, but in Finland, before the wars, the men and the husbands, they were they were building the society, and during the war, they were in the front, and after the war, the men and the husbands, they were reconstructing the society and Finland. Only in 80s, there was a consent, there was a understanding of the fatherhood, and then it was a saying that there are softy dads in Finland. Nowadays we don't talk anymore about the softy dads, but it's like more sharing all the household things and sharing all the work you have in the household.
And equal parenthood. And we have families that there are no dads or no moms, but I think it's the most important thing is that you share the chores with your spouses, plus you are building that wonderful relationship with the children. I am so happy that we have those two boys because they were raising me as a human being.
Well, I'm sure that I have benefited from my paternal leave. It was a beginning of a respect, and I would say that not replying necessarily to the question, but I was reading an article from a police, and he said that what's connected with the young offenders, young people who commit crime. One is that there's interrupted schooling, and then there's a drug problem with the drugs and alcohol, and the third one was that there's no father in the family, and that shows how important the role of the father is nowadays. It has always been.
But paternal leave also, like I benefited then when I wanted to go back to the work life. When Tuomas was 3 years old and Aleksi was a baby, and I had that childcare leave with Tuomas until he was 3 years old. But then when Aleksi was born, I really wanted to go back to the work life, and when he was staying with the boys, I could focus more on my career and going back to work, and that was, great support.
I think the most important takeaway is the respect again, and the presence, and good relation with your child or children from the first beginning. Although even though they were young, they couldn't speak, but I'm quite sure that it has benefited all the way till the years they are at the moment. I think it has been very important. That's quite difficult to say. When I had my paternal leave, it was about 30 days. Now in Finland, you can have it for 54 days. It's a quite short time, of course. But as I told, this is a life learning process. It's a process through all the years you are living, and of course, at the time I took my paternal leave, it wasn't that actually the fathers, they didn't talk too much about it. But I'm quite sure that I would regret that if I had not taken my paternal leave.
Yeah, nowadays it's not like people are saying, are you taking the paternal leave? They are saying, when are you taking it? And the young parents who we already see in our families, the fathers are always taking it because we all know it, the benefits of it.
I can see that the support from the ministry has always been good. When I first took it, it was in 1990. Of course, even then it was based on the law, and it still is. And I think nowadays, even the ministry is supporting you and encouraging you to take the paternity leave. Well, I would say that I would regret it, but it was to take the paternity leave was natural for me. So I have not been thinking about it, but it has been natural, and I'm happy I had it.
I think we are lucky in Finland that it has been so long time already that it is a habit. I don't know, it is very hard to tell this, like what do you think, what would happen if it didn't happen kind of questions, but I am very, very happy about that how good role model my husband could be to our boys, was then and has been always. I think they are now much more equal in their relationship with their girlfriends, doing the all the things, and I'm sure that they will be wonderful fathers as well when they have seen that role model. Like Raimo's father has been a wonderful grandpa, but for him it wasn't so easy to talk. And now if I see my boys how they communicate with their dad, you know, I'm very thankful for that. And yeah, so I think we became better parents.
And I think the fatherhood has developed in times. Now it's more presence. Now it's more being in the family, being part of the family. Before it wasn't like that. It was the parents, the fathers, they were highly respected, but there wasn't a natural, that much a natural communication between your father. It was more like respecting. And I think now it's more natural.
That you respect also their opinions more.
Yes, that's right, yes.
Yeah, I think I said it already, like especially after Alexei, our youngest one, was born, that my husband stayed at home when I had to go back to work, and he took the paternal leave that time. It was really key that I could feel confident going back to work, and I didn't have to worry, you know, how my children are doing. And of course we have a wonderful early childhood education in Finland, and you can get the children to the daycare easily, but still leaving your child with the person who loves them equally, like me, it was a big thing. Plus then the boys were always learned that we both work and we both are still mom and dad, and yeah, the children have rights, but they have their responsibilities and duties at home too. So they learn that, you know, we share them and they are part of that. Yeah, my husband has been a great role model for the boys.
My name is Siegenfeld. I am 40 years old and I work at the Norwegian Embassy in Ankara, where I am a first secretary, and I've been working here for 3 years. My study background is law, and I've been my whole career working as a prosecutor with the Norwegian police before I came to Ankara. Well, I've been married for 4 years this spring, since 2017, but I met my wife 10 years ago, and we got our first child in 2015 and our second child in 2018. In Norway, the regulations regarding parental leave is changing constantly. So when we received our first child in 2015, my paternity leave was 12 weeks, in addition to 2 weeks after birth. When we got our second child, my paternity leave was 15 weeks, in addition to the 2 weeks after birth. In Norway, the household chores are pretty much equal for both parents. So, to the same degree as my wife, I did all the necessary household chores, both before and after my paternity leave. During paternity leave in Norway, me as a father was the primary caretaker for my child. So, of course, when you spend up to 15 weeks with your child as the primary caretaker, you will experience all the magical things happening when your child is newly born and the first year. As mentioned before, there's a high degree of equality in Norway when it comes to performing household chores. So the father, the same way as the mother, are doing the household chores on an equal basis. Of course, when you are the primary caretaker of the child for several weeks and months, you are able to understand all the small things that are happening to the child, and also you understand the mechanisms between the child and the parent. After paternity leave, you will have a special connection with your child, and I think that this connection can only be achieved if you are spending long time with your child as the primary caretaker. After paternity leave, you understand your child in another way than if you had not had paternity leave. You make a unique connection both with the child, and also you understand the other parents' connection to the child. Well, first of all, I would not have had the same connection with my child if I had not had paternity leave. So I think both with my son and my daughter, I understand them and I know them much better now than if I did not have paternity leave. Well, in Norway, paternity leave is mandatory. So the total of the parent leave is either 46 weeks or 56 weeks. And currently 15 of those weeks are mandatory for the father. So every workplace in Norway facilitates for the employee, and the employer fully understands the importance of taking paternity leave. First of all, I think I would have been more distant to both my children and my wife. And as previously mentioned, I to a high degree understand the child and my wife.
Hi, my name is Mehmet Alexander Gürs, and I'm half Finnish, half Turkish, currently living in Istanbul. I'm a chef and food entrepreneur. I have one son, Bora, and he's 15, going on 16. I've been part in his upbringing since pretty much day one, since he was born. Obviously, the first couple of weeks, there's a very intense relationship between the mother and the child, but as we get the courage, or as I got the courage in after a few weeks, obviously everything from changing the diapers, washing and washing him, and obviously everything else in the household that needed taking care of was obviously done like any sensible, I would say, like any sensible father. For a child to have any sort of intimacy with either parent, obviously caring for them is, I would say, indispensable. You have to. I mean, if you don't care for your child, how are you going to build that relationship? If you don't hug it, if you don't care for it, if you don't wash it, then as they grow older, you help them moving on. So definitely, especially the first couple of months and maybe the first whole year, I would say, is crucial. The first 3 years are crucial, and for any parent, you really need the time to develop that intimacy. Taking care of my child, of my son, hasn't really changed anything when it comes to how I view household chores, I would say, and also the childcare. This is just something that I grew up with. I saw my parents sharing, or I didn't see it, but I learned about my parents doing it, and throughout mine and my sister's childhood. So that was a norm in my family. That's pretty much the norm that I've known, and also where I grew up in Sweden, that was just how it was done, and it still is today. So it hasn't really changed my personal view on anything, really. To be able to have a relationship with your child, taking care of it is obviously indispensable. So for me to be able to have a relationship with my son, obviously being an integral part of him growing up, taking care of him, feeding him, changing the diapers, or whatever is needed, playing with him, spending time with him, singing lullabies, whatever it is that a parent does, that is obviously necessary, and I'm very happy that I had the chance to do that. Personally, as a father, I benefited tremendously from having the time with my son. The relationship we have today would not have been possible if I wouldn't have been there. It would have been maybe, I don't know, but probably would have been a distant father figure and a more superficial relationship between the two of us. But well, I'm very happy that that's not the case. I think it helps a lot in my personal growth as well, to have that time and to learn to take care of someone unconditionally, to love someone unconditionally, and which is only possible between the parent and the child, I think. It also helped me appreciate my own parents very much so. All the effort and all the love that goes into taking care of a child is I think it's one of the most important aspects of an adult in their own growing up. Well, I would be devastated if I hadn't had the chance to take care of my child back then. Even the amount that I did is not enough. The time flies; it just goes by too quickly. And not being able to have, I'm fortunate that I had a flexible schedule, so I could take care of my son. I could be there for many of the very important moments. Because I had a flexible work schedule. But I would be devastated if I wouldn't have had that. I just don't think it's fair to the fathers, or obviously the mothers as well, for the father not being around. It's just not right. To be able to have a balanced life, to be able to have some sort of balance in your life, at work, in relationships, or I would go further and say in society as a whole, a mandatory paternal leave is crucial. For the father to take care of the child completely on his own, where the mother can continue with her life and be part of a functioning society rather than just sit at home, it's essential both for the women and also for the men that stay at home. It not just helping out, but actually doing it on your own, the total responsibility. One, I think it helps the father grow. It creates, I would say, a little bit calmer and more balanced life. And it creates a balance between men and women in general. So that whole idea of the women having certain responsibilities and then the men having others, paternal leave or mandatory paternal leave really helps, or I think so at least, really helps solving that issue that so many developing societies have. When you look at the more, I would say, so-called happy nations or developed societies, that's where the fathers are involved in their child, or where they have the opportunity to take the paternal leave all the way from the beginning. And so we can see the results from it. And so that's a no-brainer. It's definitely needed. If I hadn't had the chance to take care of my son when he was small, if I hadn't had the chance to take care of my son when he was born, and all throughout his first couple of years, what's the purpose, or how would I be able to connect with him then? Obviously, that's essential. I would be devastated. It would have been as if someone took my most basic human right away from me. So yeah, that would be devastating. The father's involvement in the care of the child ensures that a strong bond is established between him and his child, and obviously their intimacy increases. As the father participates in the care of his child, the bond and intimacy between him and the child develops.
Ben Selin Algül, Türkiye'den katılıyoruz. 1987 Uzunköprü Edirne doğumluyum. Yaklaşık bir 11-12 yıldır da bir devlet kurumunda sınıf öğretmenliği yapıyorum. Bir kız çocuğu sahibiyim. Kendisi şu anda 2 yaşına henüz geçmiş, 27 aylık.
Merhabalar, anlayacağın Algül ben de. Eşimle belirttiği gibi Türkiye'den katılıyoruz. Endüstri mühendisiyim. Yaklaşık 11 yıldır endüstri mühendisliği altyapımı kullanarak hızlı tüketim sektöründe ve şu an e-ticaret sektöründe tedarik zinciri alanında üst düzey yöneticilik yapmaktayım. Yaklaşık 5 yıldan beri evliyiz. Bir çocuğumuz var. 2 yaşında. Şu an 2 yaşına az aşkın bir yaşta kendisi. Ebeveynlik ve babalık izni kapsamında aslında Türkiye'de resmi izin olan 5 günlük bir babalık izni vardı. Ve hani bu süre zarfında kızımla ilgilenme hakkım vardı. Ancak kendisi doğum esnasında ciğerlerindeki suyu atamadığından kaynaklı bir problem yaşadığı için bir hafta yoğun bakımda kalmak durumunda kaldı. Ve hani sonrasında da ben bir haftada yıllık izin kullanarak kendisiyle aslında babalık izninin getirdiği hakları kendi iznimle kullanmış gibi oldum. Ama 2 hafta arka arkaya bu izni kullanabilmiş oldum. Bu kapsamda çocuğun bakımına ne şekilde katıldınız noktasında da aslında hani çocuğun zaten annesiyle olan bağı genel itibariyle uyuyor ve hani meme emme süreci oluyor. Annesiyle olan bağı zaten kuvvetli oluyor ama baba bir miktar daha buradaki o hormonal bağın birazcık daha dışarıdan katılımcısı oluyor gibi. Şahsen ben babalık izninin bu anlamda faydasını gördüm ve bence daha uzun süre olmasını da temenni ediyorum. Zira hani gerçekten babayla bebeğin o süre zarfında birbirlerine bakması, birbirleriyle ten temasında bulunması, birbirlerinin kokusunu alması ve birbirlerini hissedebilmesi bence yeni doğmuş bir bebek özelinde çok önemli ve ilerideki çocuk baba ilişkisini de ebeveyn ilişkisini de etkileyen bir durum olduğunu düşünüyorum. Hangi işlerde destek oldum eşime? Uyutma noktasında genelde kendisi bu kısımlarla ilgilendi. Ama işte bebeğin gazının alınması, e, gezdirilmesi, üzerinin değiştirilmesi, e, kıyafetlerinin değiştirilmesi ve hani yıkama kısımlarında ben de ona destek oldum ya da bilfiil kendimin yaptığı durumlar da oldu. Ama mesela şunu anlatabilirim. 15. günde de evde olduğum için göbek bağının düşme kısmında evdeydim ve göbek bağı düştükten sonra ilk yıkamayı gerçekleştirmiştik. O şekilde yönlendirilmişti. Bebeğimizi eşimle beraber yıkamıştık. Diğer işte annelerimiz de yanımızdaydı ama hani annelerimiz olmadan eşimle beraber tamamen biz kendi çocuğumuza temas edelim noktasında beraber yapmıştık bu işlemi, bu süreci. Babalık iznini kullanmam çocuğumla olan ilişkimi bence olumlu yönde etkiledi. Yani zaten bilinçli ebeveynlik yapmaya çalışıyoruz. Bilinçli anne babalar olmaya çalışıyoruz. Hani mutlaka eksiklerimiz vardır ama bir şeyleri okumaya, işte gerekirse seminerlere katılmaya ve kendimizi gördüklerimizden ve gördüklerimizin üzerine koyarak da geliştirerek çocuğumuza annelik babalık yapmaya çalışıyoruz. E, Ama bence daha önce de cevapladığım gibi bebekle olan temas, bebekle tam net olarak görmese bile o dönemde göz göze gelmek, kokusunu hissetmek e, ve bebeğin sizi bu noktada hissetmesi, sizinle temas etmesi nin ben önemli olduğunu düşünüyorum ve bunun gerçekten bilimsel olarak araştırmaları da yapılmıştır. Çok bu noktada uzman değilim ama kendi hissettiğim noktasında gerçekten babayla çocuk arasında kurulacak köprüyü çok hızlandırdığını ve belki de o köprüyü direkt o süreçte kurduğunu düşünüyorum. Dolayısıyla da bence çok değerli. Çocukla özellikle yeni doğduğunda geçirilen süre çok değerli. Ve hani birazcık da nasıl başlarsan öyle gider noktasında çocukla ilk etapta ilgilendiğiniz ve o bakış açısına geçtiğiniz zaman aslında sonraki aşamalarda da bunu daha olumlu etkileyeceğini ve etkilediğini de düşünüyorum. Babalık izni ev işlerine ve çocuk bakımına olan bakış açımı nasıl değiştirdi? Şöyle, aslında çocuk olmadan da dönem dönem yani aslında ev işi mantığında baktığımızda hani benim ya eşim öğretmen, evde geçirdiği süre bana göre daha fazla oluyor ve ben hani o dönem yeni de iş değiştirmiştim ve eve 8'den 9'dan önce gelemiyordum. Dolayısıyla evde geçirdiğim vakit çok kısıtlı. Hafta sonlarına kaldığında hafta sonları beraber eşimle ev bakımını yapmaya çalışıyorduk ama genel itibariyle o hafta içi ben gelmeden hani hafta sonunu daha verimli kullanabilmek adına hafta içi ben gelmeden halletmiş oluyordu çoğu işi. Bu bakımda onun hakkını yiyemem. Ee, ev işleriyle kendim de yaşadım. Dolayısıyla hani ev işlerine çok uzak bir insan değilim o bağlamda. Çocuk bakımıyla alakalı da gerçekten çocuk bakmanın aslında ne kadar zor olduğunu ve özellikle anneliğin ne kadar kutsal bir şey olduğunu hani onu hissediyordum, biliyordum. Hani kendi annemden ya da annelerimizden zaten o değeri veriyordum ya da içimde o değeri yaşatıyordum ama gerçekten insan kendisi görmeden bunun değerini çok net ifade edemiyor ya da tam anlamıyla anlayamıyormuş. Onu gördüm. Gerçekten eşimin çocukla olan ilgisi, o kurdukları bağ, onu gördüğümde gerçekten anneliğin çok kutsal bir şey olduğunu fark ettim. Ve babalığın da keza aynı şekilde kutsal bir şey olduğunu fark ettim. Çünkü aslında ikinizin de yavrusu ve ikinizin de çocuğu olarak dünyaya geliyor ve ikinizin de aslında yani her iki tarafında eşit sorumluluğu olması gerekiyor. Ve aradaki fark aslında birazcık daha anne ile çocuk arasındaki o bağ zaten hamilelik sürecinde hormonal olarak da kurulmuş oluyor. Babayla da mutlaka o hormonal denge, içgüdüsel denge bağ kuruluyor ama baba birazcık daha dışarıda kalıyor. Dolayısıyla da hani bebekle temas etmek, bebeğin o ilk hallerini görmek, onun o tamamen muhtaç halini gözlemleyebilmek, hani size bağlı, sizin bakımınıza muhtaç biri olarak dünyaya geldiğini görebilmek bence babanın çocukla olan köprüsünü de hızlandırıyor diye cevaplayabilirim. Babalık izninden nasıl yarar sağladık ya da eşim ve çocuklarım nasıl yarar sağladı? Şöyle, ben bu süreci aslında hani resmi babalık izni ve sonrasında kullandığım yıllık izin olarak ikiye ayırıyorum ama aslında ikisi de bir bütün. Yani ilk hafta çocuğum e, yoğun bakımda kaldığı için, küvezde kalmak durumunda kaldığı için ve eşim de sezaryen olduğu için biz 2 günü hastanede geçirdik. Normalde ameliyat sonrasında bütün annelerimiz, babalarımız da hastanedeydi. Yani hepimiz çocuğu bekliyorduk. Bütün arkadaşlarımız falan ziyarete geldi. Dolayısıyla hani iki gün eşimin anestezi sürecinden kurtulması ve ağrılarının bir nebze geçmesi ni de bekleyerek yani çocuğumuzu bekledik. Orada bir net bir şey de söylenmemişti bize. Sonrasında da eve çıktık. Aslında oradaki süreç şöyle oldu. Süt sağma makinesi almak durumunda kaldık. Çünkü çocuğumuzun beslenmesinin mamayla olmasını da istemiyorduk. Ve hani onu temin ettim. Oradaki işlerle uğraştım. Önce basit taraflarından başlayayım. Çocuğun kimliğinin çıkartılması, işte devletle ilgili işlemlerin yapılması ve onun sağlığı ile ilgili işte reçetelerin, ilaçların temin edilmesi, işte gerekli alet edevatın temin edilmesi ve bu bağlamda işte kendi annelerimiz, babalarımız ve eşimin ruh sağlığını daha düzgün tutmak anlamında hani bir miktar gerçekten dik duruşu onların yanındayken sergileyebildim. Eğer çalışıyor olsaydım ve işe gitmiş olsaydım hem aklım tamamen orada ve çocuğumda, onlarda ve çocuğumda kalmış olacaktı. Hem de ben işte çok verimli bir performansla sergileyememiş olacaktım. Ve eşimin de süt sağmasıyla beraber günde 3-4 sefer hastaneye o sütleri getirmek durumunda kaldım. Yani durumunda kaldım derken zevk alarak getirdim. Sadece hani bu rahatsızlık olmasaydı hepimiz çok daha mutlu ve mesut olacaktık. O bağlamda söyledim. Ve hani eşim zaten kendisinin bu noktada götürme imkanı yoktu. Çünkü kendi ağrıları vardı ve kendi dikişleriyle uğraşıyordu. Yani yürümesi, araç kullanması gibi bir durum söz konusu değildi. Dolayısıyla da hani bu bağlamda kesinlikle bir insana ihtiyaç vardı ve babalık iznim olmasaydı ben bu periyodu yürütememiş olacaktım. Ve işte de bir verim sağlayabileceğimi düşünmüyorum bu kafam tamamen çocuğumdayken ve evimdeyken. E, Ve ikinci aşamada da kendim yıllık izin kullandım çocuk ilk geldiğinde. Çünkü çocuğumla vakit geçirmek istiyordum. Çocuğumla o bağı kurmak istiyordum. Ve o aşamada da eve yine katkılarım oldu bir nebze. Ama annelerimizin ve babalarımızın da evde olmasıyla beraber aslında onlar da bizim o yükümüzü hafiflettiler. Ama anneler ve babalar gelemediği durumda yeni doğmuş bir bebekle ilgilenirken ve 1,5-2 saatte bir bazen yarım saatte bir uyanıp yarım saat emzirme süreci, uyutma süreci, altına alma süreci, gazını çıkartma süreci, üstünü değiştirme süreci ve benzeri süreçlerle ilgilenirken diğer işlerle bir insanın ilgilenmesinin mümkünatı yok. Yani şu senaryodan bahsediyorum. Ben işe gittim, akşam geç geldim. Eşim evde çocukla ilgileniyor. Bir yandan yemek yememiz gerekiyor. Kendisinin en başta sağlıklı beslenmesi gerekiyor ki hani sütten çocuğumuza e, bir verim sağlayalım. Dolayısıyla hani kendisine bakması, evin işleriyle ilgili kısımları toparlaması mümkün değil. Dolayısıyla da hani annelerin olmadığı bir senaryoda hani o bütün işleri ben yapıyor olacaktım ya da çocukla ilgili kısımları beraber paylaşıyor olacaktık ve o şekilde ilerleyecektik. Dolayısıyla bence zaten kesinlikle gerekli ve evde bulunduğum süreçlerde de ben de yine alışverişin yapılması olsun, çocuğun gazının çıkartılması olsun, altının değiştirilmesi olsun ve evle ilgili herhangi bir işlem olduğunda ben de zaten o bütün süreçlerin içerisindeydim ve eşime ve çocuğuma da bu bağlamda katkım olduğunu düşünüyorum. Ee, Babalık hissinden yararlanmanın en önemli kazancı noktasında şunları söyleyebilirim. Birincisi bence hani yani manevi değerleri üst düzeyde olan bir insanım. Bence bu bağlamda da manevi olarak bakacağım ilk etapta. Yani en önemli olay çocuğu hissedebilmek, çocuğun sizi hissetmesi, çocukla beraber vakit geçirebilmek, çocukla o bağı kurabilmek bence en önemli kazanımı. Çünkü gerçekten size muhtaç bir canlı olarak dünyaya geliyor ve onu görmek, ona bu bağlamda bir katkıda bulunmak gerçekten de çok önemli olduğunu düşünüyorum. Çocuğun bakımıyla ilgilenme fırsat sağlandı mı? Yani şöyle, babalık izni ve sonrasında kullandığım o izin sürecinde evet hani evdeydim ve genel itibariyle iş yerinden rahatsız edilmedim. Bu bağlamda da gerçekten kendilerine çok teşekkür ederim o dönemki işverenime. Ve hani o fırsatım oldu ama fırsatım sağlanmış olmasaydı noktasında yani gerçekten kendimi daha eksik hissederdim. Eee, Çocuğuma yeteri kadar ilgi gösteremediğimi düşünürdüm. Yeteri kadar zaman ayıramadığımı ve babalığın yeteri kadar hakkını veremediğimi düşünürdüm. Çünkü gerçekten hani onun yanında olabilmek önemli. Özellikle yeni bir hayata başladığı dönemde, her şeyi yeni yeni tanımaya başladığı dönemde onun yanında olabilmek bence çok önemli. Ve bu bağlamda da bu fırsat sağlanmamış olsaydı kendimi kötü hissederdim en basit tabiriyle. Ve hani bunu uygulayan ülkeleri gördüğümde ya da bunu uygulayan şirketleri gördüğümde de kendi şirketimle ve kendi ülkemle olan bağlılığım da bir nebze düşerdi şahsen yani baktığım zaman. Çünkü insan hayatında her gün baba olmuyor. Çok nadir yaşanan bir olay ve bu izin çok bir lütuf olarak görülmemeli. Bence daha bile süresi fazla olmalı diye düşünüyorum. İş yerimin bu süreçte bana olan desteği çok yüksek oldu. Çünkü ben bir de bu süreç öncesinde bir aylık bir rapor dönemim oldu. Ameliyat olmuştum. İşe başladığım bir dönem ama sıkıntılarım devam etti. Yani yoğun kanamam oldu o dönemde ve tekrardan rapor almak durumunda kaldım. Dolayısıyla hani o dönemle beraber doğumu ortaya koyduğumda aslında 1,5 aylık bir süreçte işte yoktu ki yüksek sorumlulukla çalışan farklı lokasyonlardan sorumlu bir yönetici olarak görev yapıyordum. O dönemde gerçekten şirket bana ciddi destek sağladı. İşle ilgili konularda çok fazla yormamaya özen gösterdiler. E, Babalık sonrasında gelip ziyaret eden, hastaneye gelip ziyaret eden insanlar, çalışanlarım ya da yöneticilerim de oldu. Dolayısıyla sonrasında arayan soran da oldu. Ve genel itibariyle bu süreçte hani yaşadığım zorlukları da bildikleri için tamamen anlayış gösterdiler ve dediğim gibi işle ilgili konularda yormamaya çalıştılar ve ne zaman izin istesem bana bu izin imkanını sağlamaya çalıştılar. Yasal izinden sonrasındaki yıllık izin noktasında uzatmak istesem uzatabileceğimi de söylediler. Bu bağlamda da bir esneklik sağladılar. Ama farklı dönemlerde yani yıllık izin periyodu çok kısıtlı bir hak olduğu için yani ben 2 haftalık iznim vardı. Bir haftasını burada kullandım. Kalan bir haftada da yazın ailelerimizle beraber geçirebileceğimiz ya da baş başa geçirebileceğimiz bir tatilde geçirmek noktasında bir planımız olduğu için yani o bağlamda da sonraya bırakmak durumunda kaldım. Babalık izni alamamış ve çalışmaya devam ediyor olsaydım bu bana yine en kaba tabiriyle kötü ve mutsuz hissettirirdi. Ve iş yerinde de çok verimli olabileceğimi düşünmüyorum o bağlamda. Bu kimsenin olabileceğini düşünmüyorum. Çünkü aslında bir işi yaparken oraya konsantre olabilmek ve onunla ilgili odaklanabilmek, işle ilgili odaklanabilmek çok önemli oluyor. Bu ne iş yaparsanız yapın ya da hobinizi bile yapsanız aynı şekilde. İş yerinde de ciddi sorumluluklarımız oluyor. Yani yaptığımız bir hata bir sürü farklı insanı etkileyebiliyor. Bir sürü farklı insana ekstra iş yükü oluşturabiliyor. Rakamlardaki bir hata şirketi yanıltabiliyor. Alınan kararları etkileyebiliyor. Dolayısıyla insanın bence işte çalışırken de oraya tamamen dedike ve odaklı bir şekilde çalışması gerekiyor. Ve baktığımız zaman hani kafada çocuk varken, çocukla ilgili bir problem varken ya da çocukla vakit geçirme isteği, arzusu varken Bunun sağlanmamış olması ve gel işte çalış deniyor olması bence insanları hem demotive eden bir şey, hem iş yerlerinden soğutan, bulundukları ortamdan soğutan, motivasyonlarını kaybettiren bir şey. Hem de yani yaptıkları işten de çok fazla verim sağlanamayan bir süreç olacağına inanıyorum ben. Dolayısıyla da bence babalık izni hakkının sağlanması annelik izni kadar önemli bir hak olduğunu düşünüyorum.
Ben de eşime o konuda katılıyorum. Babalık izninin hakkının olması annelik izni kadar önemli olduğunu. Evet, eee, yeni doğum yapmış bir annenin tabii ki de hem kendini toparlayabilmesi hem de bebeğe yeterli açıdan bakabilmesi için annelik izni şart. Ama babalık izninin de azımsanmaması gerektiğini düşünüyorum. Çünkü eğer babalık izni hakkı sağlanmamış olsa anne ve babanın her şeyden önce kendi ilişkilerinin zedelenebileceği görüşündeyim. Şöyle ki bizim özel durumumuzdan dolayı eşimin de belirttiği gibi bebeğimizin küvezde kalması durumundan dolayı ve benim de hiçbir şekilde dış işlere, dışarısıyla ilgili işlere bakamamamdan dolayı eşim o bir hafta akabinde kullandığı yıllık izni de bir hafta, 2 hafta bizim dışarıdaki elimiz ayağımız olmuştu. Çünkü ailelerimiz de İstanbul dışında yaşadığı için onlar İstanbul şartlarını ve İstanbul koşullarında dışarıda bir nüfus müdürlüğüne gitmeyi veya herhangi bir yeri bilmiyorlardı. Yani eşimin o durumda 2 hafta yanımda olması, hastaneye benim sağdığım sütleri götürmesi çok inanılmaz bir şekilde hayatımızı kolaylaştırmıştı. Çünkü benim onları tek başıma veya bir başkasıyla yapabilmem mümkün değildi. Biz doğum öncesinde de eşimle görüşüp, konuşup bir karar almıştık. Doğum esnasında ve doğum sonrasında tamamen anne ve baba olarak bebeğimizin yanında ikimizin kalacağı, ikimizin ilgileneceği konusundaydı. Annelerimiz, biz evet şanslı gruptaydık. Çünkü annelerimiz vardı yardım etmeye gelen, bize yardım için gelen. Dolayısıyla ev işlerini onlar hallederken biz bebek bakımıyla ilgilendik. İkimizin de ilk çocuğu olduğu için, ilk çocuğumuz olduğu için ikimiz de tecrübesizdik bu konuda. Beraber tecrübelenmiş olduk. Eşim de belirtti. Ben şu görüşteyim, eşime de ek olarak. Ben babalık izninin bir hafta olmasının yeterli olduğunu düşünmüyorum. Çünkü bir haftada zaten asıl işin, asıl bakım olayının bir haftadan sonra başladığını düşünüyorum. Bebek bir haftalık olana kadar sadece besleniyor ve uyuyor. Daha sonradan işte gaz sıkıntısı vesaire hani o sorunlar ortaya çıkmaya başlıyor. Biraz daha uzun olmasının hem anne için hem baba için daha faydalı olabileceğini de düşünüyorum. Bu durumda biz evet tekrar ediyorum şanslı gruptaydık. Eşim babalık izni sonrasında yıllık iznini kullandı. Yanımızda en azından evimizi düşünmeyeceğimiz, emanet edebileceğimiz büyüklerimiz vardı. Şayet ki bunlar olmasaydı ve eşim bir hafta sonra işe başlamış olsaydı, e, çalıştığı iş yeri de bu konuda esnek davranmasaydı biz çok ciddi anlamda zorlanabilirdik ve ilişkimiz bu konuda yıpranabilirdi diye düşünüyorum. Çünkü mutlaka yeni doğum yapmış bir annenin belli bir süre yardıma ihtiyacı oluyor. Bu konuda da yardımı sağlayabilecek en önemli kişinin eş olduğunu düşünüyorum, baba olduğunu düşünüyorum. Eğer çalışsaydım ben bebeğimi doğurduktan bir süre sonra yıllık izinlerimi, doğum izinlerimi kullanıp bir sene boyunca da çalışmadım. Ücretsiz izin aldım. Eğer çalışsaydım, yoğun bir işim olsaydı bu mutlaka bizi etkilerdi olumsuz açıdan. Ama biz bu konuda işte eşimle işbirliği yaparak, işte o işten geç geliyorsa ben ev işlerini hallederek, çocukla ilgili bakım işlerini hallederek, eşime çocukla ilgili daha kaliteli vakit geçirme, zaman geçirme alanı ayırarak birbirimize yardımcı olduk. Keza eşim de aynı şekilde. Ben yorgun olduğum zamanlarda çocuğun işte çocukla vakit geçirerek, bebekle vakit geçirerek bu konuda bana destek oldu. Benim söyleyeceklerim bu kadar.